Shane Strickland has won tag team gold in AEW, but can he arise to the throne? Is it time to win singles gold? The AEW International Championship is waiting. We're going to talk all about it and everything else that's happening in Black Wrestling this week. So stay tuned. This is WrstlXtra.
Oh, yo, this is WrstlXtra. I'm your boy, A Dazzle, the Black Wrestling Advocate, always joined by my trios team, Mex, the WrestleManiac, if you will, and of course, the professor that is Gerard Bonner. Just like my internet connection, Shane Strickland's chances at becoming a singles champion have been delayed, but...
Well played.
The time is coming. As Shane Strickland edges closer and closer to Orange Cassidy for the AEW International Championship. We saw how close he got at Double or Nothing in the Battle Royal, of course, being with him and Orange Cassidy as the final two in that match. He won a triple threat match against Big Bill and best friends. I forgot his name.
Yes, Trent
That's
Beretta.
the one, Trent Beretta. And it seems as though it's not been made official. We haven't really seen them come face to face, but it seems as though we are getting closer to Shane Strickland against Orange Cassidy for this AEW International Championship. Mex, what are you thinking of the likelihood of Swerve International becoming a real thing?
Yeah, I think it's something that they've realized is a very viable option. Look, we've been saying Orange Cassidy has done a great job with this championship. They've been telling a story that, you know, he's running on empty. Like, he hasn't got much left in the tank. He survived 20 other men or so in that battle royal, Swerve being the last one. And I felt like, especially for us getting to this point of this match happening, Swerve's performance in that last 5-10 minutes with Orange Cassidy in that ring, that little singles match they had, that's, like I said, what planted the seed in my head that, you know, Swerve should be champion. He's someone that could be champion. Now, yes, you know, we like things to be coherent, you know, that makes sense. Swerve hasn't done anything regarding the title picture for a long time. A lot of people didn't even know what he has been doing because they're not watching Rampage, where he has been ever present. But again, just mixing it up with Keith Lee and not really doing much of anything with that story. Obviously, he's got his new embassy mates behind him as well. I just feel like making him champion at this point, it doesn't take away anything from Orange Cassidy, because they've told the story that Orange Cassidy has, you know, he's got the most defenses with this title. He's beaten all of these people. Swerve is a heel. He could ultimately cheat to win or get his faction mates to help overcome Orange Cassidy. Give Swerve the title, because it can help to build up whatever they've got planned for him and this faction. They've got belts. Swerve could be, you know, the last piece of the puzzle ultimately, to look credible as well with a belt with these guys. And, you know, let's see what Swerve can do, take this in a new direction, maybe more so have some more stories around the title, more so than open challenge like Orange Cassidy had. He just does everything right. Like, for those of us that were watching NXT, we saw his North American title run and how good that was, and it just almost felt like after so long keeping him away from that title, it just fit when it happened. And I feel like this is a very similar situation. So yeah, I'm very much in the camp, and if he doesn't win, I'm sure the match will be great. And Orange Cassidy, again, you know, we can wax lyrical about how great he has been, but it's going to be a question, well, if not Swerve, then who? You know, and even with Collision coming up, like, this could be a good way for Swerve to kind of help establish that belt over there, drop it maybe eventually down the line to whomsoever, but just something different. It's been a while Orange Cassidy has been champion, and as good as he has been, I feel like change is upon us, and this is a very good option.
Mick's already asked the question. If not Swerve, then who? But then at the same time as well, is it time for Orange Cassidy to drop this belt? It was mentioned on commentary on Dynamite that he is the second longest reigning champion in AEW history, or most wins even. In AEW history, second to Jade Cargill, who had as many as she had as well. Is it really time for Orange Cassidy to drop this belt, or does this run continue to go on because the fans are loving it still? Mm-hmm. Gerard, what do you think?
It's interesting to say. I mean, it's been over 235 days since Orange Cassidy has been the international champion. And if we're honest, he's been the most consistent thing on AEW television during that time. You know, we have come to really enjoy seeing Orange Cassidy walk out as champion, defend, have an incredible match, and still retain that title. With that said, I think the story being told, being what it is, if there was a time for him to drop, now makes sense. Whereas he's already been defined as weakened because of all of the battles that he's had. And if Swerve kind of comes in and picks up the bones, it fits Swerve's character. And it's interesting, you know, having a faction where everybody in the faction has a title, but you and you're the leader, doesn't make you look good. You know, we can see that happening with Damage Control, right? So I sit back and I say, now's the time. And I think tomorrow's the day. I think, you know, when this match happens tomorrow night, they've got a chance to really do something. I think it's been a minute since we've seen a title change of that magnitude happen. And so with a title that has had this long of a reign, honestly, the international championship seems to mean more than even the TNT title right now. So that's thanks to Orange Cassidy. So, yeah, I think if it's not time now, it'll be time very soon. You know, so if he doesn't, I mean, there are a couple of options here. If he doesn't beat, or if he doesn't lose to Swerve, could you send him over into Forbidden Door? And could there be an opponent waiting for him at Forbidden Door? I mean, my God, the options you have. What if he's fighting Hiroshi Tanahashi? What if he's fighting Takahashi, the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion? I mean, like the things that they could do together. And the idea, because here's another thing that we haven't thought about. If he doesn't lose it to Swerve, wouldn't it be something at Forbidden Door for an AEW championship to go to Japan? Hasn't happened yet. It would be the true definition of this Forbidden Door.
Right.
So to me, that's a move that may put him against Shingo Takagi, right? Like there are options in terms of people for him to battle that would make a lot of sense. That would be extremely interesting. So if not Swerve, then I think somebody from the New Japan roster could be the one and could do it as soon as Forbidden Door if it doesn't happen tomorrow night.
And that makes sense, actually, because, you know, we've got to remember, obviously, the International Championship was first the All-Atlantic Championship, and it was it was an international tournament. And then when Pac won, he went to the UK, and then he went to so-and-so, and he fought so-and-so, and all the rest of it. And obviously, we've lost the essence of it. That's probably why they've changed the name of it. But at the same time, even in saying that, Orange Cassidy has definitely raised you know, the championship in his run. And as you said, Gerard, you know, it now feels more important than the TNT championship at this point.
Right.
So I think it would be you know, if Swerve doesn't win, it's a great move for Swerve to win. But if he doesn't, the next best move would then be for someone from New Japan to win it at Forbidden Door and take it abroad. Definitely. Yeah. In this whole thing with Swerve, and you know, we've mentioned that he's with the Embassy. The Embassy are the ROH six-man champions at the moment. How difficult is it for Swerve, whether that be as a character or in terms of booking, or in terms of, you know, just the whole status of the faction itself? How weird is it for the leader to have no championship, but then the three behind him have, I think they mentioned have had 11 defenses now of this championship. Is it inevitable that Swerve has to win something, or do AEW then focus on it in some way to turn it into some kind of storyline or whatever? I was like, you know, are the scales just wrong right now? Mex, what do you think?
I don't think the scales are necessarily wrong. I just think like for instance, and this is what I mean. I don't know how much this all means because you watch Ring of Honor, and Embassy are smoking anyone that gets put in front of them. They perform how they look. But on AEW TV, they can't get a win. They can't do anything right. So, I mean, that's kind of disconnecting that whole universe anyway. The thing is with Swerve, as the leader, yes, you expect him to be at least the one with gold, and them other guys are the ones trying to chase it, or something like that. Granted, since this group got put together, this is the first opportunity at gold he's had. So that's what I mean. With the story of Orange Cassidy being tired and all that kind of stuff, with them man at ringside, plus Nana as well, Prince Nana at ringside, like that's like a 5-on-1 situation. You see what I mean? Like there's no way Swerve shouldn't really walk out with this title. So it'll be interesting to see how they book it. Swerve, does he need the title? I would say so. Just to kind of kick on his character. Like his character is very good, but you're talking mogul, you're talking rapper and all of these kind of stuff. You don't have gold. You don't. I mean, gold is in line with everything you're talking about, whether it's blending the rap universe or being a mogul, having money, an entrepreneur, whatever the case is, businessman. Like you need an asset, and you don't have one, and everyone else has one in your gang, and you don't. So. It does need to be corrected, and I just expect to see a lot more of Swerve, especially with Collision becoming a thing. He's a good option. He's a very, very good option. I mean, the Forbidden Door and someone taking it in Japan, and that's not my only thing now. Orange Cassidy, would he feel slighted if he loses the title so close to Forbidden Door and then he's not on the card?
Yeah.
So... True. Yeah, that's the only thing that makes me think that he retains at this point. But if that's the case, let's see how they do it, because I don't think they can afford to throw away what they've set up with Swerve here. They've kind of made us care again in the last 2-3 weeks. For him to disappear into obscurity, at least until Collision starts, I don't think that would be a good look.
So I think you're right in saying that, like, obviously you need something to kick on this whole character and all the rest of it, especially with the faction at least of this Mogul affiliates or whatever it's supposed to be called now, Mogul Embassy or Embassy affiliate, whatever. mess with the word, you'll get it right. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
I think it's definitely necessary. Whether it has to happen, this week. I don't think it has to happen this week. If he doesn't win, maybe the feud carries on and he does it in the second attempt or something like that. Maybe that would be all right as well. But I think it definitely needs to happen soon, at some point. But the New Japan thing is a very interesting take on it as well. Speaking of former North American champions, to another former North American champion, Carmelo Hayes. We saw, obviously, we know that he defended his NXT championship against Bron Breakker, and in the following NXT, he had a great match with Noam Dar. I think that was beautiful booking in terms of getting him involved with Noam and all that kind of stuff. I think that's amazing. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about what happened after the match when a random lone wolf, Baron Corbin, attacked the NXT champion Carmelo Hayes and has set his sights on becoming the NXT champion. The free agents in WWE are running rampant right now. Gerard, what was your feeling when you first saw Baron Corbin attack Carmelo Hayes?
It felt random. It felt super random, and yet it felt right. Random, but right. And here's why. Baron Corbin right now has been doing nothing. It's like everything he tries doesn't work. He was a lone wolf. then he was happy, then he was a wrestling god, and he did none of them well, apparently. So, now with that said, I still think the best run of his career happened in NXT. And the one thing he never got to do in NXT was become the NXT champion. So this free agency could actually really, really work for him. And it's just crazy. You could take somebody who nobody really cares about or pays a lot of attention to. You bring him through those NXT doors, they immediately feel important. And that's what happened to, to Corbin. He felt important. It feels like a big challenge now because of height and all the other things. And to attack, of course, after that insane match with Noam Dar, which I actually thought, oh my God, is Noam Dar about to win the NXT title, right? Like, his stock was about to go way up. It was handled extremely well. But yeah, I like this. I didn't think I wanted it. I didn't think I needed it. But after I saw it, I was like, okay, because in my mind, there's no way Baron Corbin wins the NXT championship. But this is a great way, I think, to give some major caliber opponents right now to the NXT champion while there are other people that are lining up. Because, you had Braun Breaker, but then you didn't really have too many others that we start talking about. And now we can start thinking about people perhaps like a Dijak, like a Ilya Dragunov, and a few others that could fit that bill after, a number of folks have been drafted up to Raw or SmackDown. So I like this. This is a really good challenge. It's a great use of the free agency space. And I don't want Baron to be the one to end the reign. I don't. You have this funny look on your face like it could happen. But yeah, I like it. I think it's going to be a good challenge.
Don't get me wrong. I've always been a massive fan of Baron Corbin. Kind of almost hate the fact that his career hasn't gone to higher heights. I absolutely love, his style. I love the whole lone wolf thing at the time.
Yes.
All the rest of it. I thought the Happy Corbin or the wrestling god thing was going to help. Clearly didn't. But my issue is, it's not that it's Baron Corbin. It's more so obviously the way he's portrayed, both booking and with the fans over however many years, for him to just come straight in at Carmelo Hayes. Now, another person who made their appearance out of nowhere on NXT was Mustafa Ali. That would have made complete sense, especially after he's just lost to Gunther at the at Night of Champions for the Intercontinental Championship. That then would make sense for him to then come down, as we say, it's a come down, however you want to put it. Come down to NXT and challenge Carmelo Hayes. I just feel, Mex, give me your take on this, but I just feel as though the timing's wrong, or maybe they should have done something with Baron Corbin for a month or two and then send him there. Mex, what's your take on this whole thing?
So I don't think that's necessary in terms of doing something with Baron Corbin on the main and bringing him down, because there's like a disconnect between the two audiences of that watch it. So like Gerard said, it's like you can do literally nothing up on main roster and come down, and you saw the reaction of the place. It's like, oh my God, Baron Corbin, like it was The Rock that walked in or something.
right.
Like it
exactly.
was like I was like that as well. Like
right.
I'm just thinking, when I see this guy on the main roster, I'm like, not because I don't like him, but because I know they're not doing anything good with him. Like you, I like him, but yeah, it's that kind of different energy around it. Like Gerard said, I don't expect Baron Corbin to win. However, we cannot forget Dolph Ziggler came down to NXT and beat Braun Breaker for the title. Yeah, it would lasted 2 weeks or something like that.
Yep.
But it happened. So we can't negate that this could be a thing. If this was down the line, not necessarily that Baron has to do something on main roster first, but let's say this was about 4, 5, 6 months into Carmelo's reign.
Oh, I'd be scared.
I would be shook.
Yes.
I'd
yes.
be scared.
I
I'd
would
be
be
very
yes.
scared straight away.
Like you would believe it more.
Straight away.
Like, yo,
Right.
they might actually do this sort of thing.
Right.
I think same with, you mentioned Mustafa Ali. If Mustafa Ali came knocking like 3, 4, 5 months down, and it's like they're almost moving him back down like they did with Apollo, I thought, okay, like let's brace ourselves. They might do this here sort of thing.
Right.
It's still very early days in Carmelo's run, so I think we're safe. And this is just like a big name competitor that they could use. I don't know where they're gonna have the match down the line. They're back on the road and need some type of attraction sometimes to sell tickets in certain places. This is just someone that can take a high profile loss, boost Carmelo, that Carmelo's beaten, an ex, I don't know what he's one on the main roster, US Championship or something like that. Mr. Money in the Bank, like, like just something they can reel off to kind of boost Carmelo. And at the same time, we were discussing last week, we're not really fans of this face turn. Like, it's been okay, but like, Carmelo as a heel was absolutely cooking, and it was flames. Maybe they are running out of heels at that level in NXT that can face him. There's a couple, like there's Joe Gacy, but I don't think any of us would really believe that Joe Gacy could get it done this early as well. And Dijak as well. Dijak is good, but it seems like he's becoming a bit of a perennial loser. He beats everyone up on NXT TV, and it's time for pay-per-view, he loses. So he probably lost a bit of heat there. But yeah, they just needed a high-profile person. Baron Corbin's not doing much of anything. They send him down. I think it can be good. It can be fun, and we'll just see. I'm hoping he doesn't win. I wouldn't mind seeing a Baron Corbin NXT Championship run.
Something he hasn't done.
For real.
I don't think I want to see it this soon into Carmelo's run at Carmelo's expense, but I'm not totally against it. But I think this is just nothing more than a high-profile competitor for Carmelo.
To be fair, I'm just down for any type of Baron Corbin elevation, if I'm honest, because it's just been so long. But yeah, I can't expect. I don't expect it to happen, or for Carmelo to lose at all. But then, if or when Carmelo retains, does Baron Corbin stick around, or does he just then go back on the free agents bus and decide to turn up wherever he wants after that?
That's it. He just gets back on the bus and goes elsewhere.
Where do you need me, coach?
Literally. At the same time, maybe not for the world title, maybe something like Ali with the North American Championship. Again, Wes has been doing some great work with it. But if Ali's eventually to have a match with him and win that title, and then he's a free agent with the North American Championship, if they're daring, that title can float around a couple of brands before it returns to NXT, if they're daring. So that's why the free agency thing is a bit interesting. I guess where it soured for me is that they said Brock Lesnar's a free agent, blah, 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 made it, all of this kind of bells and whistles. And then, Baron Corbin's a free agent. Right. And Dolph is a free agent. And then it's all of a sudden, is this thing really that special? So, but they're getting their chance. They're still getting their chance on TV here and there. And it's just to make it feel like, a free agent that's got a title, and now what can we do with it?
What's interesting though is I think there is, and I think it's kind of been I've mentioned or hinted at least on WWE TV as well. There's definitely seems to be a distinction between Brock Lesnar and Omos as free agents and everyone else as free agents. True. I think there seems to be this whole, because as we know, MVP negotiated for Omos to be a free agent. Brock Lesnar is a free agent because he's allowed to do whatever he wants. Everyone else is just free agents because they don't know what to do with them.
Right.
You know what I mean? I think they've made that kind of distinction, but at the same time, it kind of made it feel a little bit like, at the time when it was first announced. This is the interesting thing for me. So we mentioned Mustafa Ali also making his appearance on NXT, also a free agent. Up until his match against Gunther, like there was nothing much he was doing. this whole positive Ali thing. He made it work, but it wasn't really going anywhere. For him to now be in NXT, now this is the type of thing I'm talking about. Like for him to now be in NXT, for him to show up when Wesley's having his match, and he's now the most winningest champion. Now we already saw one record breaker lose her championship the other day. You know, for Mustafa Ali to come in, and then eventually, I'm sure and hoping eventually a match with Wesley and Mustafa. This is going to take us back to that Cedric Mustafa Buddy Murphy time in 205 Live.
Yes,
like, that's what we're about to get, and I would not be upset in the slightest. Almost wanting Mustafa Ali to win.
I would,
straight away. Again, another guy who I feel should have been elevated a long time ago. The possibility of him winning and then taking that championship to different places. Gerard, how realistic do you think that would be, though? Would he then be tied down to NXT or still be a free agent if he won that North American Championship?
I think that'd be interesting. You know, that kind of falls in the same lines of if AJ had won the world title, would he keep that world title on SmackDown or would he take it to Raw? Precedence says that, okay, your status seems to trump the championship in this era. And that's why we have the Raw Women's Championship on SmackDown and the SmackDown Women's Championship on Raw. So with that said, if the NXT North American Championship moves into a space of free agency, you just made that title even more interesting because now it could be defended anywhere, you know? And so you now open the pool up in terms of the people that would actually compete for this particular championship. So I love the idea of it traveling with the agency of whomever holds that title, which I think would be intriguing. And it would make it interesting for an NXT person to actually really try to fight for that title because we got to get the title back on NXT, you know? True. So I think you have a lot of ways that you can go with that. And again, sign me up for Wesley and Mustafa Ali. Sign me up and take my money. It's going to be great.
Yeah, I think it's certainly a dream match I didn't realize I needed.
Great American Bash, make it happen.
That would be good. That would definitely be good. Speaking of chasing championships, we now know that Trinity is chasing a championship. Try and say that fast 3 times. Trinity is now obviously on Impact Wrestling. She has said when she made her debut, she said she's going to be watching the Knockouts Championship match between Jordynne Grace and the champion Deonna Purrazzo. Deonna Purrazzo was the one that came out on top in their match, and after defeating Savannah Evans on Impact, Trinity then invited the champion to the ring, and quite easily and very simply challenged for the championship. And Deonna said, "All right, let's go. Let's do it. If we must, let's do it on the biggest show of the year. Yeah, all right, let's go." So now we have the imminent match with Trinity versus Deonna Purrazzo. The question is it? We've asked this question before when Trinity first made her debut, but is it too early for her to win the Impact Knockouts Championship? Gerard, what do you say?
In the immortal words of Bryan Danielson, aka Daniel Bryan, yes, it's too early. It's too early. Here's my issue. We've long talked about why, what happens when you take an ex-WWE talent and put them somewhere else in another universe. Automatically, they get what I call the Hulk Hogan treatment. The problem with that is for someone like Trinity, she's not been tested outside of the WWE waters. So she's had 1, maybe 2, now 3 matches in Impact, right?
Yep.
All great matches, but let's test your skill. I mean, Naomi, Deonna Purrazzo, if my memory serves me correctly, was top 10, top 15 on the PWI 150 in 2022, right?
Mm-hmm.
Naomi was not. And a lot of that had to do with her, stepping out of WWE and not being active or what have you. But I think Naomi really should work her way Trinity. Trinity should work her way through the Impact Women's roster, considering this roster has been heralded as being historically one of the greatest women's rosters in the business, period. Pick a time frame, while the WWE were still, calling these ladies divas and having 2-minute matches, the women in Impact were stealing the show and fighting in steel cages. So to me, just to honor Impact, go through the ranks, fight this talent, all of this, and work your way to Deonna. To me, 3 matches. Yes, you are Trinity. Yes, you are a worldwide star, but honor Impact enough and honor your own skills. You hadn't wrestled in a year. So, because here's the challenge to me. If you come in after being the hottest free agent and lose at Slammiversary, where does Trinity go now? If you win, did we just say that an ex-WWE star can come into the company we've built and become champion in the most important women's roster in only 3 months? After all that Deonna had to go through to win this title, the people she's defeated, all that Impact is, to me, it doesn't seem fair to either party. It's not fair to Impact, and it's not a fair representation of Trinity's skills. So is it a great publicity move? Yes. But I also sit back and say, how have they handled Trinity since they got her? So day one, she was the main event. Now in these shows, she's right in the middle. They're not putting her matches at the end. And maybe it's because the opponents that they're handing her, I don't know, but it's not happening that way. So I just think they really need to honor what's already been built there and let Trinity work her way through. If Nick Aldis is willing to work his way through, why not Trinity? Just my 2 cents.
That is very, very true.
In the same company.
Right. I was thinking to myself. She started this feud with Giselle Shaw. Within Giselle Shaw's little camp, you've got Savannah Evans, Giselle Shaw, and Vidal.
Yep.
Vidal, that's the one. Jay Vidal. Yes. So in some way, you've got a few weeks worth of story, feuding, interruptions, whatever, to keep us going for a couple of months. Then maybe move on to the next person. All in that space of time, you can still have your eyes very close to the champion. Right. In the same way, if anyone hasn't seen it, in the same way that what happened on Impact is Trinity was in the ring speaking to Deonna Purrazzo. Giselle Shaw and the camp attack those two. Then Jordan Grace comes in, and then Giselle Shaw just goes in on Jordan Grace. It kind of should have been the way around, where Giselle Shaw should have went in on Trinity, and then that be the feud, and we carry on and whatever. But we find ourselves where we are, and like I said, I think it was just a little bit weak in the way it was. I want your championship. Yeah. Oh, okay, no problem.
Wait, we make all this noise about Bianca Belair and how there's no lead-in, there's no this. At least Bianca will say, I'm the EST. I'm the best in the world. Somebody come fight me. Somebody challenge me. Trinity, after this match, just says, I'm going to cut to the chase. Get out here. I want to challenge you. And Deonna says, sure. Okay. What? Did we wait a year for this? And I want to be clear. I don't want anybody running around. He doesn't like our black queens. I love our black queens. Y'all don't do that. This is not that show. All right.
Nope.
But we are gonna hold everybody's. If this show has held Bianca's feet to the fire, we've held Mercedes' feet to the fire because we don't. It's not just about us wearing gold. It's about us being presented well. And you did not leave the WWE and stay out of a ring for a year for how people were presented to walk in the middle of this ring and say, I want to challenge you. What? You don't have a great story. You can't talk about how you were mistreated where you were. You can't talk about I've had my eyes on this division and this title for a year and I'm going to work. I mean, pick a story, any story. Don't just say, hi, I came to be champ. Make me champ. Thank you for making me champ. Come on.
That's Hulk Hogan.
I mean, that's exactly what it is. Like, we deserve better. You deserve better. Come on.
My thing is this as well. Like, I expected with Diana being the way that she is, I expected a similar kind of MJF type of, I guess it's that kind of thing now where he's like, no, you can work towards it. You've got to do this. You've got to do that. I'm not giving you a chance. You forget about it, blah, blah, blah. No, you're on.
Right.
Okay. So Trinity said this before, obviously, upon her debut. And to be honest, if I remember correctly, Diana accepted the proposal then. But then Jordan Grace said that she was a number one contender. They've had that match now, right? So
they have.
The space is open now. I'm just playing devil's advocate here. Yeah, I wholeheartedly believe yes, she should work her way up. There's a division there to work through. Deonna Purrazzo is a formidable contender as well in terms of just as a wrestler. You asked the question like, is it too soon to put the championship on Trinity? I asked the question, do you want more people to watch Impact? And I think that's pretty much where it lies. Like,
but what will make them watch Impact more? Her being champion or her chase to the championship?
Her being champion and tuning in, I reckon.
Because from where I sit, I mean, if you make her champion already, then where do we go? And I just sit back. We talk about consistency. They're literally on the last pay-per-view was a 6-man scramble or something to determine who the number one contender is going to be. At this next event, they're doing what they call an 8-4-1 match, right? An 8-man tag. It turns to a fatal 4-way, and the one becomes the number one contender. You've put people through Ultimate X matches. You've put them through ladder matches. You've created new matches, and now after Jordan Grace can no longer get a shot at the title, we just say, hey, all you men, you guys have to scrap and fight and claw. All my life I had to fight. That's what you do for the Impact men. And for Trinity, you say, hey, I just want to be champ. Like, come on. It's the same company. That's the crazy part to me. If this were AEW, now here's the thing. If this happened in WWE, we'd be screaming bloody murder. If AEW did this, we'd be screaming bloody murder. I think we have to hold the feet to the fire. How can an NWA world champion who'd been champion for 1,000 days, imagine Roman Reigns goes over to another company. You'd automatically think he gets the world title shot. He says, no, I want to work my way up.
Right.
So how does the figurehead of one company come back to a company they were in, choose to work and start with Kenny King, who's no slouch, but you start with Kenny King and you say, I'll be the first match on the card and work my way up to earn the championship. To me, it's unfair to her. It's unfair to the rest of the division. And if she wins, I don't know. I think they back themselves into a corner here. I really do.
Yeah, they will. And again, I'm totally in you guys' side of this. To argue the point, I would argue that NWA is a lesser company than Impact.
I would agree with that.
Hence why what's his
But
face?
he's also a former Impact World Champion.
Yeah, that's true.
So he's got clout.
That's true. I think it's literally a case of, you know, and obviously we're jumping the gun here. She may have this match with Deonna Purrazzo and lose. Like, she may lose it, which I think would be good as well. And then maybe that's what sends her down, and then they climb from there. Maybe this is simply just for people to tune into Slammiversary, because that is the big show. So yeah, we might be jumping the gun here a bit. Is it too early for her to be champion immediately? We like stories. That's how we like our wrestling. So yes, for us. But at the same time, Impact are a business. And obviously, Gerard, you're complaining about, you know, people being handed stuff, and these guys have to fight and kill themselves for an opportunity, and some don't. And for in an Impact's eye, I can only imagine, well, we've already got him as a fan watching the product. All we want is the moment. Trinity beats Deonna. Let's have a social media video. Trinity is the new Knockouts champion. X amount of views and all of that kind of stuff. The likes of Impact aren't, you know, they need that kind of exposure. So rightly or wrongly, like that's where they may be with it. But yeah, we might just be, you know, over egging it right now, and it might not come to fruition. We just have to see.
I think for me, what with all these things that are being said and all the factors that we're talking about and mentioning, I think for me the issue isn't necessarily just Deonna versus Trinity at Slammiversary, because it just makes sense. It's Slammiversary, it's the biggest show. You're going to try and put the biggest people on the card. It makes sense. For me, it was the simplicity of the challenge. That, for me, is a problem. There are so many weeks until Slammiversary. There's still Against All Odds that's happening next week, I believe. There are still things you could have done to help build it, or, you know, as I said, you know, Deonna says no until she has to say yes. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. We still get the moment, or the possible moment at Slammiversary. We still get the match. We still get the big names on the card. The fear is, well, it's not even the fear. I would rather Trinity lose. I wouldn't want her to win. I'd rather her lose, and then, as Gerard said, maybe do the whole chase and have to go through so many people and do whatever it is that she's got to do to get back to it. For her to win, great moment for social media, views, YouTube, blah, blah, blah. Amazing. What then do you do with Trinity after that? Now, here's the hard truth in terms of this whole thing of her coming straight in and becoming a champion and blah, blah, blah. Now, I didn't really want to say it, and I hate having to say it, but it happens all the time. She's not Mercedes Moné. It's as unfortunately as simple as that. As great as she is, she doesn't carry the same notoriety. If she did this in AEW, oh my word, you would hear it from everyone. You would hear it from everyone. So it's tough. It's a very difficult situation because, you know, there are so many correct things on both sides in terms of it shouldn't happen, and this is why it is happening, and blah blah blah. But for me, it's kind of like, I don't think it needed to happen so quick, or if it was going to, give it a little bit more substance than what they did on Thursday.
You actually uncovered the elephant in the room, which is why I really want her to be able to beat these other competitors. Because if you beat these other competitors, now people can say you're the one. They can say it unequivocally, and they don't have to attach the WWE stardom to it. We can say Mercedes is the one, not just because of what she's done there, but look at who she's taken on in New Japan, right? Look at what she has done, you know, from what she did with Kyrie and her other matches, you know, and had there not been an injury, we all suspect at Resurgence, she'd be carrying gold again. So it's one of those scenarios where everything isn't equal as much as we'd like to say it is. So when you recognize it's not equal, you have to put in the work to make it equal, right? I think if we walk into a scenario, and I think a lot of people are eventually looking at, Multiverse United in August, where the idea could be Trinity versus Mercedes, right? Where do we do we really think that it's a slam dunk for Trinity to win that match? Most people would easily say Mercedes is the favorite, hands down. Competitive match, yes, but you expect Mercedes to win. I think the challenge here, we never had this conversation, but it's probably good to have. The challenge here is when we all heard that Mercedes and Trinity were leaving, I don't think anybody had a question in terms of what Mercedes would do, in terms of would she be a star? Would she figure it out? Did she even have to come back to wrestling? Because we could Mandalorian, modeling, like we rattled through all of these things and we said she's going to be fine. We weren't sure about Trinity. So that's why we made a big deal when we would see her modeling, oh, wow, that's cool. She's doing a Comic-Con. Wow, that's cool. But outside of those things, she was eerily quiet. So we didn't have anything to say she's going to be all right because she's going to do this. We hadn't even seen her outside of WWE, so we didn't know. So I think this time is important for her to build her star, for us to be able to acknowledge that she's really a star because of what she can get done in the ring without the WWE dressing, without Mercedes sitting in her corner, that she can stand alone on her own. And so I feel like putting her in this match right now doesn't give her the chance to do that. And that is where my concern lies.
I think we have to remember as well, like when Mercedes or at the time Sasha Banks and Naomi became a tag team, we kind of saw it in an encouraging way as Naomi's about to, be pushed. Naomi's probably going to get that push that she deserves, and Sasha's going to help elevate her and all that kind of stuff. It was never Naomi's bringing up Sasha. Even when it was Team Bad, it was a very similar situation, and Mercedes only just came onto the main roster.
Right.
So and so here's the thing. So with them leaving when they left together, and as hard done by as Naomi has been, I think a lot of people had it in their mind that they were on the same wavelength or the same level. But it just wasn't the case. So yes, so when Mercedes was successful in coming out of nowhere, challenging Kyrie, winning straight away, no one questioned a thing about that.
Not
the way that
person.
happened, no one questioned that. But as Gerard rightly said, I think this Naomi Trinity in Impact should have been a time for her to say, right, this is what I can do. Let me prove it. Let me show you. Blah blah blah. Maybe. Impact and Trinity themselves think that this is the way for her to prove it. I can take on the Knockouts champion straight away, and I'm gonna beat her. That's how good I am. Possibly,
maybe,
possibly. And I wouldn't be surprised if obviously she does win, because as Mex was saying, it's ratings, it's views, it's bombs on seats, it's all of that business stuff. That at the end of the day, the guys on the board in Impact are going to be looking at as their main priority. Yes, they love wrestling too. It's clear they love wrestling, but the business, if there's no money, there's no wrestling. It's not the other way around. You know what I mean? So it's a very interesting one. I'm very, very intrigued to see how they move with this over the next few weeks to build up to Slammiversary. And I think that for me is now the fear.
Let me ask you guys a question. So what needs to happen in your mind, given the trajectory of where this could go? What needs to happen in your mind for Trinity to be viewed at the same level as Mercedes?
I think they've messed that up already. Next.
Who Impact?
Yeah, I think they've messed up. Too quick.
Wow.
To be viewed at the same level of Mercedes, to be honest, I don't think there's anything Impact can do for me personally that would make me view her at the same level of Mercedes. It's outside stuff at this point. It's how she's viewed within the mainstream and all that kind of stuff. Within wrestling, you know, because she's seemingly going to be wrestling a lot more and be on a lot more TV products than Mercedes, especially with this injury now. Yeah, like she could win the champion and, you know, ultimately run through the entire division, have good stories, have good matches with all these ladies, and then that kind of alleviates all the fears and stuff that we're saying to a certain degree. But then it's like probably somewhat like Jordan Grace has now. She will reach a ceiling within Impact, and it's like, well, what's my next step? Is it AEW? Is it back to WWE? And, you know, you're gonna ask those kind of questions. But yeah, I think there's very little that she could do within wrestling, period, maybe right now, which would make me see her on the same position as Mercedes. She's been in the game for far too long and dwindled, not to her fault, but dwindled for so long that it's almost like this is like a second opportunity now that she's having this run, but it's like it's literally, as they say, in the September of her career. Like, how much longer do we expect to kind of see her wrestling anyway, sort of thing? It wasn't like for the Drew McIntyres and Cody Rhodes that they left at a good time or got sacked at a good time and then, you know, done whatever they did and then came back as megastars. Like this is a different situation, and that avenue is open. After all, her husband still works there, family ties, you know. Triple H wasn't the person that got rid of her, so I'm sure they can squash that anytime. But yeah, I just feel like for her to get to that level of Mercedes, there's some outside powers and things need to take place for her to be viewed on that same pedestal.
You bring up some very, very interesting points there, Mix, about like others who have gone away and come back to WWE, Cody Rhodes, Drew McIntyre. We've seen the likes of EC3 and Matt Hardy go to Impact and become massive stars there. Do you think that's a possibility for Trinity? But here's the other thing I was going to say. Before anyone answers that question. We forget as well that there are still positives to both outcomes, whether she wins or loses as well. Gerard mentioned about if she loses, then she can do the whole rise back to the championship and blah, blah. Mex, I think it was you that said, you know, if she wins, she can then run through everyone else in the knockouts division. That would be positive for her in the long run. And this is why I mentioned, you know, your EC3s, your Matt Hardys, who have done similar things to where they eventually become champions and then had a great run. And, you know, everyone was like, yep, they need to go back to WWE and they'll become champions and da-da-da-da-da. It happened for Drew McIntyre, not so much the other two that I mentioned. Is that, do you still think, it's very, very early to ask the question, but do you think that that's a possibility for Naomi to do Impact, become great in Impact, and then go back to WWE and then become a bigger star than she was before?
I don't think that's an impossibility, but I do think it's going to take time. And that, I think, is the challenge that Mex mentioned. You know, if we think about female stars that really kind of became big outside of WWE and came back to WWE, Mickie James is like the first name that comes to mind, where she had a really solid run in WWE, left, went to Impact, had an incredible run, and then came back to WWE. It's possible. Impact is probably the place to do it. Here's the challenge. You know, it's funny. We've come out of this, 419-day reign of Bianca, 508-day reign of Jade. You know, we're looking at 1,010 days right now for Roman, and everybody's mad about these lengthy reigns. But as we've seen with Orange Cassidy, with Gunther, lengthy reigns actually make the championship better, makes the division better, and makes the wrestler better. I think if Trinity's going to become champion, for Trinity to be able to outlast and to be viewed differently, or at least on the same level as Mercedes, she's going to need to do some things that Mercedes didn't do. And one of the things Mercedes didn't do was have a lengthy title reign. She's never had a lengthy title reign anywhere. So she could silence a lot of the doubters by having a lengthy title reign in Impact. Now, here's the crazy part. Taya Valkyrie really became Taya Valkyrie in Impact. Taya Valkyrie has the longest reign of a Knockouts champion at 377 days. So we're asking ourselves, would we be ready and willing and able to see a Naomi reign that passes a Trinity reign that passes 377 days? Which means if she wins this title July in Slammiversary, are we willing to rock with her for another year? Will her body hold up? Will the competition be that, that will allot her to do that? And I think if she does that and she can have longer title reigns than Mercedes had, then I think we can start talking about, well, now, Mercedes had 5 reigns, but they were 80 days or less, right? And you look at Trinity and say, well, she did 380 days in a knockouts division where they weren't calling themselves divas, right? So I think she's going to have to do that. And to your point, will her body hold up? Will her desire hold up? There's a lot of ifs, and I guess only time will ultimately tell. I want her to succeed. I don't want anybody to misunderstand me, but I think there's going to have to be a long-term commitment for her to be able to be viewed as the woman in Impact.
I think there's one thing that helps that in the massive way is the way that Impact tape. It's not, it's not weekly television like WWE.
Yes, I agree.
They do a lot of their taping within the space of a few days or a week. And that's like about a month's worth or whatever it is. So that should definitely help in the long term. Whether she stays there long enough, whether they can keep her long enough, and that's the thing. It's Impact. You know what I mean? They're not known for having people there for a very long time, especially those who have become stars in other places first and then come to Impact. So that's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how long she can stay there. Because even when Mia Yim went back there, I thought she was going to be there for a long time. What was it, about 3 months?
Right.
And it
was
done.
very short.
Like, huh? Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see how it all works.
Make her champion at Slammiversary. Keep the title on her as long as possible, as long as there's interest. Maybe she leaves by December next year. Put her in the Royal Rumble. Let her win the Royal Rumble.
I mean, that scenario could work.
That works.
You let her go, till December of next year in Impact as the women's champion, and she go. She'd be able to negotiate for a lot more money. We'd go the pop that would happen at Royal Rumble 2025.
Again,
if she comes in and wins the Royal Rumble, that's elevation. After
that
obviously a successful run, that would be massive elevation.
I agree. I agree.
That'd be interesting. I think something like that would definitely massively depend on what she does in Impact.
Right.
If they elevate her and her championship run is great and blah 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 and all the rest of it, then Triple H would be like, all right, time to bring her back.
And people care. The numbers are there to back it.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, like we're saying, this all comes down to business.
That's
of course.
Yeah, if people are watching and tuning in for her segments, if people are watching online, the social media is going crazy for her. I don't really know if Impact do the merch thing well or at all. But if all of that kind of stuff, if they can quantify it and think, right, let's bring her back, let's give her what she wants, put her home back together because her husband's here and all that kind of stuff. Give her the Royal Rumble. She's been synonymous with Royal Rumble entries. She's been synonymous with keeping herself in the Royal Rumble in the middle of the match. Maybe we're saying 2025, maybe down the line past that or whatever. It might be sooner, who knows? But that's the one thing that could definitely reignite her within the WWE. And, it starts with how Impact are treating her, like we're saying.
It's interesting because obviously we've got Trinity, who's about to have a championship match and making waves on Impact, and Jimmy is super kicking the tribal chief, and he's making waves in WWE. Let me just say one thing on that whole thing. That new championship belt, not for me.
I'm not crazy about it.
No, just doesn't.
I'm not.
No.
I don't know. I'm not.
Nah.
I'm not crazy about it.
You know
I
that
want
gold one, the gold one that they give to celebs and stuff, the one that Snoop Dogg has.
Yeah.
I've always wondered, why isn't that the championship? Or at least why shouldn't that have been the one they give Roman for this big, massive, undisputed run?
Because that's fire. That was fire.
Yeah, that belt's nice. Yeah. Very different.
Nice.
They messed up big time with that one. Big time.
Yeah.
With that said, this is the end of our show. You have been watching WrstlXtra on the WrestleManiac UK YouTube channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe to make sure you see when this guy Mex puts up all his reactions and news on WWE and AEW. Don't forget also, and I forget this every single week, and I don't know why, also follow this guy Mex with the lads over at Wrestlings as well. Go over to the Wrestlings YouTube channel. You can also follow Mex on WrestleManiac.uk on Instagram, WrestleManiac UK on Twitter. Follow this guy, Gerard Bonner, The Faction Show, WWT Live, Southern Honor Wrestling, all the rest of them. keep going. Battle Slam. All the rest of them. The Nightmare Factory. You can catch him also as well. Of course, follow me on everything at Bonafide. And you can follow me, of course, Dazzle on Black Wrestling Alliance on Instagram and BWA Dazzle on Twitter. Guys, this has been our show, and we will see you again next time.
Peace.